So, Jen, we are continuing our series here on progressives who are challenging incumbent Democrats. Some of those Democrats are actually fairly progressive, but we around these parts think that these primary challenges are very healthy from the perspective of progressives. In your instance, you are running against someone who has been traditionally fairly popular in her district, but nationally speaking, not terribly popular with progressives. You're running for Congress, or I should say, to the Democratic nomination in Florida's 23rd congressional district against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the former head of the DNC. Let's just start with, before we get to Schultz, let's just start with the 23rd congressional district. Tell us a little bit something about that district. Who comprises it? What's the history of voting? Is this a Democratic district, broadly speaking? What else can you tell us about the district?
It's a very strangely gerrymandered district, first of all. It's very cut up in a way that obviously they've created a safe seat for Democrats here. So it's a very blue district. And unfortunately for us progressives, it does tend to be more of a Biden blue than a Bernie blue. And this district did go for Hillary in 2016. But that being said, I think that things are a little bit different here over the past few years. I've definitely noticed a difference in trend, especially an increase in young people that are being very active and participating. And I think that is a big difference down here. But in terms of the demographics, it's an older group. There definitely is a dominant amount of older people. There's a good-sized Jewish population here. And it's pretty varied. It's actually a pretty diverse district, with the exception of it's blue.
Right. Okay. So we have a heavily Democratic district, but with a wide range of Democrats, it sounds like, in the district. So with that said, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a second generation Floridian. Have you lived in that district long? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay. I am a second generation, and I actually was born in this district. Before the district was cut into the shape that it currently is, it did include North Miami Beach, which is where I was born. Now it only has a sliver of that in it anymore. And I was gone for a while when I went to college, but I've now been back here solid for 16 years, living in Davie, which is in Broward, but part of the same district that we do connect. We have parts of Dade and Broward in our district. And my background is growing up in a working class Jewish family in North Miami Beach and going to school with the same kids from kindergarten through high school, fairly typical upbringing. And my background in terms of what I've done is professionally is journalism and marketing. And then I went to law school. So so I have very deep roots in this district, and actually more so than Debbie does because she's not from down here. But I've been here forever.
And all right, so you're a hometown candidate, and I'm curious as to what made you decide to run?
Well, I've been watching what's been going on here Debbie's been my congressperson for 15 years. So I've been watching this, like everybody else has, unfold over the years in terms of the corporatism and the shift to the right and the people that are representing us, but are actually representing corporations. And I've been watching this happen for a long time. And in 2016, I was very inspired when she was challenged in the primary, and I actually volunteered on that campaign. And so I've just been very aware of what's going on in this district for a really long time. And I'm just at a position right now. I recently reactivated my law license, and my youngest is 13 and my oldest just left for school. And so I'm kind of in an opportunity. I have an opportunity. I'm in a position now where I can do it, is basically what it comes down to.
All right. Well, tell us about the way you perceive Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and presumably, I mean, if you're running, you don't think that she is doing a sufficient job in representing the interests of the 23rd district. I mean, where do you think that she is falling down on that job?
Actually, it isn't even just specific to her. I generally am opposed to any sort of corporate candidates, period. I personally won't vote for anybody who's taken corporate money, and that is her problem. And it is with many people. It's not just her. But the fact that she takes money from the corporations and the interests that she takes money from, and then doesn't do things that are in the best interest of the district because she's answering the corporations, that's my problem. So it isn't necessarily specific to her, although I could tell you who she specifically takes money from and the different things that she does that I find objectionable. But in general, I have a problem with anybody who isn't answering to constituents because they're on a corporate payroll.
Well, specifically, why don't we get into that briefly? I mean, who do you think that and obviously, I think a lot of people. This is not. It's not a terribly controversial position, frankly. The idea that if you take corporate money, chances are you are either beholden to them or already on the same page as their interests, and that's why they're willing to give you money. I mean, it's either going to be one of two. It's either going to be one of those two, or you have to assume that corporations just have no idea what they're doing and they give out money willy-nilly. So where do you think, in particular, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is compromised by some of the corporate donations she's received?
Okay, I mean, two that stand out the biggest to me is one, Big Sugar. So that's one of her biggest donors is Big Sugar. And as such, she has agreed to giving sugar subsidies repeatedly. And she has done things that are in the best interest of Big Sugar at the expense of our environment. So we have this major toxic blue-green algae problem down here, I'm not sure if you're familiar with, that has infested our water. And it has killed manatees, and it is this toxic smell for people that if they live near it, they have to actually wear masks over their faces when the algae is blooming because they can't breathe. So, and some of it occurs naturally, but it has been exacerbated by industrial polluters like Big Sugar. So she takes money from Big Sugar. So to me, I don't know if whether or not she agreed with their positions before she took their money or if she just does their bidding. But to be honest, I really don't care. It's a conflict of interest to me. Like it just is. And then the other one that's a big donor of hers are payday lenders. And I mean, I support the new legislation proposed by Bernie and AOC to cap it at 15% for interest for people that are doing they're predatory loans is what they are. And we have a significant problem with them down here in Florida. Our rates are off the charts and she takes money from them. So that to me is somebody taking money from an industry that specifically targets disenfranchised communities and specifically people of color.
Right.
So I mean, that's a huge problem, and Florida is one of the worst. This was something I was just reminded that her second largest donor is NextEra Energy, which is Florida Power and Light. So anything down here having to do with creating solar initiatives or things that would be putting us in the right direction as far as renewable energy, she's not, I don't see her supporting that. I don't see her proposing that. I don't see her taking any initiative on that. And we live in Florida. We're going to be underwater in 12 years.
Right. And not only, obviously, particularly around Miami, are you going to have a lot of problems associated with climate change. One would think that there'd be ample opportunity for solar initiatives in a place like Florida. I've taken a look at your platform on your website, gen2020.com, and I also know that you perceive your job as a representative to find out what your constituents think. Let's talk about your platform, but I want you to reconcile that, like, how you both respond to what your constituents want. And you said that you are in a very blue district, but one that has a bunch of different types of Democrats. How you respond to what they want, but also promote progressive values. So when we talk about campaign finance, I mean, what extent do you think people are concerned about corporate financing of campaigns in your district?
I think more and more. I think that more and more people are learning about that. And the people that aren't opposed to it generally don't even understand what's going on with it. And when you educate people about that and other things, it's amazing what people actually can realize is in their own best interest when they're told these things properly. So a big portion, I think, of responsibility of being a representative is educating your district. So, when you ask how do you get progressive policies through even when you have a mixed demographic, I think that one of the things you do is you go around your district and you lobby to your constituents and say, here, this is what I'm thinking would be in our best interest. What do you think? I think that could occur as town hall forums. I think that should be a running online, there should be a running online conversation on every representative's page that their constituents can jump on and say what they think about different legislation. With the technology we have today, I don't understand why they don't do that.
Right.
But then again, I think that representatives could be wearing body cams when they're having meetings during working days. So, what are they hiding? Why don't they give an accounting for what they do? So my thoughts are, as a representative, you can't change everything, but you can at least be transparent about what you are doing.
Let's talk about healthcare. You support Medicare for all. When we say Medicare
Absolutely.
for all, what do you mean by that?
Single payer. Single payer. Absolutely single payer. I do not think that there should be private insurance companies in any duplicative service area that is being covered by Medicare for all. If people want private insurance for things that are in addition to Medicare for all, I don't know, things, cosmetic surgery, things that people might want that are not, covered, then fine. But I don't believe that there should be private insurance in any way duplicative of Medicare for all.
And give me a sense of in your district. You said it's it's a Miami district. A lot of elderly folk go down there, particularly from up north here and to retire. As you go around and talk about Medicare for all, how do folks who are on Medicare now, how do they respond to that?
That's not the issue that we generally push with the older folks, because they don't really care about that. That
Right.
isn't their concern. A lot of it is either an indifference, or there's even this sometimes, well, I had to wait, or I got mine, and people should have to wait. And so generally when we're talking with people that are older, that's not the key issue that I'm necessarily bringing up with them. But that's definitely something when I talk to other people that is very supported down here.
Interesting. What resonates the most with the elderly folk that you're talking to in your district?
I got to tell you, I generally find that when you talk about things like this place flooding and their grandchildren being underwater and having toxic water to drink, that is something that they can see a little bit more clearly as an imminent need to work on versus giving everybody Medicare for all. So there's that. And then there's the general anti-corruption sentiment. And I find that across every age. That people, that everybody seems to agree. And I actually even go to Republican club meetings and hear what they think and what they have to say. And their common theme with them is also they don't like the corruption either. So, it's interesting. There's a lot of things we have in common.
What are those things that they? What constitutes corruption in that respect? Just they don't appreciate corporate influence, or do they perceive who's doing the corrupting? Are there competing narrative as to the type of corruption and the source of corruption? I guess so. I guess there's all levels, but generally to me, if somebody is being beholden to somebody else, then they're not to be trusted in terms of doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then you bring into account, well, sometimes they're taking money from people, but it's called something else. It isn't exactly where it's supposed to be from. Well, what is that law firm and who do they represent? And what kind of relationship do you have with the people that work at this firm? And I think that all of it roots to the money. But then that opens up so many different doors to so many different avenues where there's just the opportunity for such impropriety. So, Jen, we have about 2 minutes left here. What do you think is your biggest challenge? What is it going to take for you to win this race against Debbie Wasserman Schultz? Do you have a sense of how many votes you need? Do you have a sense of what constituencies or what specific parts of the district you need to convince? What is the theory of your win here?
I think really it's going to come down to a ground game, and I think it's going to come down to knocking on as many doors as we can and reaching as many people personally as we can as a team. I think that's what it's going to come down to. But, really social media now is different than it used to be. There are certain advantages to being somebody that appeals to younger people that I will have in terms of promotion that she will never be able to attain. You know, she's not going to probably ever have a following on Instagram. Right. So there's going to be certain groups that she can't possibly reach. So I think there is certain targeting involved of demographics and getting certain people like really enthusiastic about our campaign. But in general, yeah, I know exactly how many votes we need. And I know exactly which areas to target. I mean, this is very strategic. Like right. It's a very strategically planned campaign in this district, and it has to be here.
And I assume you're only taking small donor donations based upon what you've told me in terms of your stance of corporate money. Correct.
Well, we'll look. If an individual wants to max out, we're happy to take their money. But we don't take. We only take from individuals, and we won't take from even groups of individuals. So you couldn't get like a whole bunch of gas and oil execs in one party and have them all just max out to me individually and have me do that. So I won't be beholden to any interest or any group.
Well, if folks want to find out more, they can head to your website, gen2020.com. I imagine you're looking for folks to donate, but also you're probably looking for volunteers.
Yes, we are looking for all of the above. I mean, ultimately, we would really love to get monthly donors. We're asking for $23 a month for District 23, but obviously we'll take other amounts of money, whatever people can share with us. And yeah, we definitely want volunteers, and we need volunteers locally, but we also need volunteers that don't live here as far as even just helping with social media.
Jen, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.